Section 1. The face of the highest banknote. Look closely at the cash in your wallet. Why do we put politicians, kings and conquerors on our currency? In the United States, the ultimate $100 bill features a man who was never a president. His name is Benjamin Franklin. Now cross the Pacific Ocean to Japan. For decades, the highest banknote, the 10,000 yen bill, featured a man who was never an emperor, nor a prime minister. His name was Yukichi Fukuzawa. This is not a coincidence. It is a profound historical mirror. Both nations chose to place thinkers, writers, and educators at the absolute peak of their monetary value. Why did these two completely different cultures arrive at the exact same conclusion? What did these two men see that others missed? Let me ask you a question. Who is on the highest banknote in your country? And what does that choice say about your culture's deepest values? Tell me in the comments below. Let us begin a journey across time, from the streets of colonial Philadelphia to the fading world of the samurai, to discover a timeless blueprint for true freedom. Section 2. The modern crisis of drift. Let us fast forward to our world today. Look around you. We live in an era of incredible comfort, instant information, and endless connection. We can reach across the globe with a single tap on a screen. Yet underneath this bright surface, a quiet crisis is spreading. Many of us feel a deep, haunting sense of anxiety. We feel powerless, isolated, and strangely empty. We are constantly told what to think, what to buy, and how to live. Social media algorithms shape our desires, and society sets our goals. Without realizing it, we have stopped steering our own lives. We are simply drifting on a vast ocean of noise. We have traded our personal freedom for convenience. We have surrendered our independent minds for a false sense of security. Why does modern life, with all its wealth, feel so fragile? The truth is, we have forgotten how to stand on our own 2 feet. We depend too much on external systems to save us. But when the world changes overnight, those systems crumble, leaving us lost. How do we reclaim our inner strength? To find the answer, we must travel back to a time of chaos and revolution, where our 2 guides discovered the antidote to drift. Section 3. The American Polymath. Let us first visit the windy streets of Boston in the year 1706. A young boy named Benjamin Franklin was born into a poor, massive family. He was the 17th child of a humble soap and candle maker. He had only 2 years of formal schooling before he had to work. By all accounts, his future was small, dark, and predetermined. Society expected him to stay exactly where he was born. But Franklin possessed a quiet, unstoppable hunger for knowledge. He became an apprentice at a print shop, surrounded by letters, ink, and paper. Every spare penny he earned went into buying books. He did not just read them, he dissected them, rewrote them, and memorized them. He taught himself how to write with elegance and argue with absolute logic. Through sheer willpower, this poor printer transformed himself. He became an inventor, a scientist, a diplomat, and a philosopher. He tamed lightning with a simple kite and helped draft the American Declaration of Independence. He proved that a human life is not defined by its beginning, but by its willingness to learn. He built himself from nothing, and in doing so, he showed a new world how to build itself through the power of individual growth. Section 4. The core of Franklin's philosophy. To Franklin, philosophy was never meant to be trapped in dusty library books. It was a sharp, practical tool for daily survival. He looked at the world and saw that many people failed, not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked discipline. They were slaves to their own bad habits and sudden impulses. Franklin realized that true freedom requires mastery over oneself. To achieve this, he created a famous, structured system of 13 virtues. These were not soft, religious ideals, but hard, practical guides for self-improvement. They included temperance, silence, order, and industry. Every single day, he carried a small private notebook. He tracked his behavioral failures with a small black spot next to each virtue. He did not expect to be perfect overnight. Instead, he treated character building like a lifelong scientific experiment. For Franklin, morality was tied directly to personal productivity and financial independence. He famously wrote, "God helps them that help themselves." He believed that by improving your own mind and work ethic, you cease to be a burden to society. Instead, you become a pillar of light that can lift up your entire community. Section 5. The Samurai of Enlightenment. English now. Let us turn our eyes across the vast ocean. To Japan in the year 1835, A boy named Yukichi Fukuzawa was born into a low-ranking samurai family. The society around him was locked in a rigid, frozen caste system. Your birth dictated your entire existence. If your father was a low-ranking samurai, you were destined to bow to higher-ranking samurai forever. Fukuzawa hated this invisible prison. He saw that talent meant nothing and status meant everything. Then history exploded. Western warships arrived and Japan was forced to open its closed doors. While others panicked and gripped their swords, Fukuzawa saw an opening for change. He realized that the old samurai worldview was entirely useless. Against the modern world, he threw himself into learning Dutch and English. Diving deep into foreign books, he traveled across the Atlantic and Pacific, absorbing Western science, history, and society with sharp, observant eyes. He returned home not to conquer, but to teach. He traded his traditional samurai robes for Western clothes, and his sword for a pen. Fukuzawa became the fierce intellectual engine of a brand new Japan. He proved that true strength does not come from ancestral bloodlines, but from an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. Section 6. The core of Fukuzawa's philosophy. Fukuzawa's philosophy crystallized into one of the most famous opening lines in Japanese literary history. He wrote, "Heaven creates no man above another and no man below another." At first, this sounds like a familiar Western ideal of natural equality. However, Fukuzawa was not just making a political statement. He was delivering a sharp, urgent warning to his fellow citizens. He followed that line with a crucial twist. If all people are born equal, why is the world filled with such massive gaps in wealth, power, and respect? Fukuzawa's answer was devastatingly simple. The only difference is education, but he did not mean memorizing ancient poems or elite theories. He championed what he called Jitsugaku, or practical science. He believed you must learn things that actually matter to survival, like economics, geography, and physics. To Fukuzawa, education was the ultimate weapon to achieve dokuritsu, or personal independence. If you do not educate your mind, you will spend your life being controlled by others. Let me ask you to reflect on this. In modern society, do we use education to truly become free thinkers? Or are we just earning degrees to fit into a system? What does practical learning mean to you? Share your thoughts below. Section 7. The illusion of contrast. At first glance, these two men seem to belong to completely separate worlds. Benjamin Franklin was a child of the Western Enlightenment. He was an urban printer, a master of a technological craft, and a businessman who loved civil institutions. He lived in a society focused on contractual laws and individual liberties. On the other side of the planet, Yukichi Fukuzawa was born into a deeply conservative, isolated Eastern society. He grew up in a culture dominated by traditional Confucian duties and strict filial piety. He was, by birth, a member of the elite samurai class, trained in a world where obedience to authority was absolute. How could an 18th century American printer and a 19th century Japanese samurai share any common ground? It seems like a hopeless mismatch. We are taught to view East and West as polar opposites, moving along totally different historical tracks. But if we look past the external clothes, the languages, and the geography, we uncover an incredible intellectual convergence. The surface differences are merely an illusion. Section 8. The uncanny convergence. When you look into their hearts, the connection between these two men is absolutely striking. Franklin and Fukuzawa both realized a profound truth. A nation's true strength is not built by its government, its military, or its raw wealth. It is built entirely on the character of its individual citizens. Both men saw that a country filled with dependent minds would inevitably fall into tyranny or colonization. Therefore, they both arrived at the exact same concept, self-reliance. Franklin's famous 13 virtues and Fukuzawa's passionate call for dokuritsu were the exact same medicine for the human soul. They both demanded that individuals stop complaining about their circumstances and start educating themselves. They did not just write about these ideas. They built the physical engines of change. Franklin founded the first public lending library and a university. Fukuzawa founded Japan's first modern newspaper and Keio University. They both understood that to change a culture permanently, you must give ordinary people the tools to think, create, and stand on their own feet. It is a stunning historical bridge across space and time. Section 9. The distinctive nuance. While their core mission was identical, we must not overlook the unique battlefields each man faced. Their challenges were shaped by the specific shadows of their respective cultures. For Benjamin Franklin, the battle was focused on optimization and creation. He was operating in a relatively young, fluid society. His task was to build civic institutions from scratch and refine individual virtues for economic prosperity. He aimed to turn raw settlers into organized, productive citizens. For Yukichi Fukuzawa, however, the struggle was far more destructive and painful. He was not building on empty ground. He had to demolish centuries of deeply ingrained mental habits. The Japanese mind had been conditioned by generations of absolute feudal obedience. People suffered from a psychological disease he called the spirit of dependence. They feared authority and naturally expected the government, or Oshio, to handle everything. Fukuzawa's ultimate enemy was this profound mental slavery. He did not just have to teach science. He had to break the invisible spiritual chains that kept his people submissive. Franklin sought to organize a new society, while Fukuzawa fought to liberate an old mind. Section 10, The Wisdom for the Modern Seeker, Gendaijin e no Hinto Shime, English. Let us bring this journey back to your own life today. The voices of Franklin and Fukuzawa echo loudly across the centuries, speaking directly to our modern crisis of drift. True self-reliance is not about surviving alone in the wilderness. It is about maintaining your independence of mind while living in a crowded, noisy world. It means refusing to let algorithms dictate your desires and refusing to let society choose your path. The ultimate wisdom these two icons offer is wonderfully practical. Stop waiting for an external system to rescue you. Master a tangible craft, dive into useful knowledge, and treat your own character as a continuous, lifelong experiment. Financial security matters, but it is merely the outer shell. The ultimate goal is inner freedom. As you close this video, look once more at your own life. Are you steering your own ship, or are you just drifting with the current? Perhaps wisdom is not about finding quick comfort, but about gathering the courage to think for yourself. The blueprint for an independent mind has already been written. The remaining question is whether you are ready to live it.